Do. See what we got. Jamari's World. Hey, RJ. Do you think someone will contend? I guess he's saying we will contend for the Big 12 title this year. I think this year it's up for grabs for a lot of teams to make it. All right, so maybe you're not talking about Oklahoma because they've won the last 5 in a row. If it's Texas, I think you're having a great argument, right? Because as I'm going to say later on in another segment that's going to be uploaded around 5 o'clock, adding Brendan Schooler to this offense only makes this offense that much more potent. Tarek Black, also added as a grad transfer from Michigan. Add to that Josh Moore, Brendan Eagles, Malcolm Epps. Roshan Johnson might be the number 1 tailback on the depth chart. Bijan Robinson, Keontae Ingram, Sam Cosmi at offensive tackle, and then that's before we get to Jake Smith and Jordan Whittington, all with Sam Ehlinger in what has to be a magic year for him. If it's not a magic year for Sam Ehlinger, we got a problem, all right? Because he has the tools around him, and he's gotten better each and every year. Now, if Chris Ash can get that defense to play in the kind of football that their talent suggests they could play, yeah, you're contending for a Big 12 championship. Because with Caden Stearns back there, with Josh Thompson back there, with Joseph Asai playing a much more natural outside linebacker position, add Verdon Broughton, who I think is a true freshman that nobody's talking enough about. That dude is built, right? Like, just different. I'm excited to see what Texas can do. They're going to face off with UTEP to start the season. We'll see how it goes from there once they jump into Big 12 play. Texas Christian is also another one to look for. If Marcel Brooks was eligible, I think they could finish second, third, easy. But even without that, right, you got J.D. Spielman on the outside. You got Tay Barber on the outside. You got Zach Evans in the backfield, right? Assuming you get Max Duggan back, that's going to be your starting quarterback, but that's going to be the issue right now. Matt Baldwin had to medically retire. Max Duggan was out with an issue that is not COVID-related, but it's something that he's had since birth. Who's going to be your starting quarterback, right? But defensively, you're going to be great. Trayvon Moehrig is back there. Again, if you get Marcel Brooks, Garrett Waller is back there. They have an opportunity to be really good. Next year, they're a threat to win the Big 12 title. Oklahoma State is going to go as Spencer Sanders goes. He threw 16 touchdown passes last year. He threw 11 picks. According to Pro Football Focus, he's one of the worst quarterbacks in all of FBS. He's got to be better because Tylan Wallace is one of the best wide receivers in this entire season, right? Of all the teams, even if Ohio State was playing, even if Pac-12 was playing, Big Ten was playing, he would be one of the best wide receivers on the face of the planet. Add to that, 2,000-yard rusher in the backfield named Chuba Hubbard. Exists between those 2 seconds between taking the ball from the snap, handing it to Chuba Hubbard, get out of the way. Add to that, Spencer Sanders has tremendous running ability. And then the defense has gotten better. Jim Knowles' defense is wildly underrated. You get Calvin Bundage, you get Malcolm Rodriguez, you get Kobe Harvell-Peel. You ought to be able to win some football games. You ought to be able to challenge for a Big 12 title. Those are the teams that I'm watching at the top. And then there's Iowa State laying in wait. If Iowa State can get past Texas, get past Oklahoma, they're in the Big 12 championship game this year. It's that simple. I really believe that. See what else you got in here. What gives you so much confidence in Spencer Rattler, but not Miles Brennan? It's a good question coming from Tavares Jackson. Rattler's a 5-star quarterback. Miles Brennan was not. Rattler set the Arizona State passing record. Miles Brennan set Mississippi State passing record. Spencer Rattler comes from a system that was just like the one that he ran in high school. Miles Brennan inherits a system that Joe Brody overhauled. When he was recruited, they were still playing I formation, and they were running, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Pro-style quarterback versus a dual-threat quarterback. The weapons at his disposal are dudes that he's been playing football with for a very long time. Not the same with Miles Brennan, right? I also add to this. Lincoln Riley is the head coach. Lincoln Riley is the offensive coordinator. Lincoln Riley is the quarterback's coach at Oklahoma. Ed Orgeron don't do none of that. And until Joe Brady came along, Steve Ensminger couldn't be trusted to do none of that. They were talking about firing Steve Ensminger. Ensminger brought in Joe Brady. Joe Brady corrected the offense. He's off to Carolina. I say North Carolina. He's off to Carolina. So that is tremendous, okay? Add to that, he also plays in a league for which is not as difficult to play through as the SEC, let alone the SEC West. Then add to that, You got more new faces at LSU than an integrated high school playing offense and defense. You lost 16 dudes that started for you. 14 of them got drafted. Offensive line, gone. You only returned Jamar Chase and Terrence Marshall at wide receiver. You got to trust Chris Curry or Ty Davis-Price or John Emery. Then defensively, you're running a whole new scheme with a whole new coordinator. You lose Kerry Vincent, but LSU fans want to keep telling me that's not a big deal. We'll find out. Elias Ricks better come on. So shall Cordell Flott. Derek Stingley's going to be responsible for a lot. And then you need Jabril Cox to be as advertised. There's a lot of moving pieces to LSU, right? I understand LSU fans feel some kind of way about me, but I still don't think that they're going to be that good this year as the defending national champs. However, if you want to get into the conversation of dynasty and you want to get into the conversation of being great, you got to do well this year. You got to make the SEC championship game. That means you got to get past Bama. You got to get past Auburn. You got to get past A&M. You got to get past whatever Ole Miss, Mississippi State turned out to be. And an Arkansas team, quite frankly, ain't got nothing to lose. They're playing with house money. They have the toughest schedule in all of college football history. They're going to want you. And after last year, where Ed Orgeron said out loud, Arkansas ain't been anybody in a long time, we don't really see it as a big deal that we beat them, knowing that he didn't mean to be mad, still getting under Arkansas fans' skin. Add to this, Ed Orgeron got his own issues. He's taken issue with Oklahoma and the Sooner Summit, going, I don't know if any NCAA violations happened or any rules are broken, but I suspect that they might have been. And he's like, I don't really want to comment on this. I want to see what the NCAA does. But he, like literally everybody else but Oklahoma, believes there were some violations that occurred, right? Whether it was with coaches or whether it was with facilities that were kind of left unlocked. I find it interesting that Ed Orgeron is in his feelings about what Oklahoma was doing in August during a dead period. I never thought of LSU as being shook, but Ed Orgeron is showing us that they feel shook. I think that is the thing that I take away from that. If Oklahoma can shake LSU after LSU won 63-28 in Atlanta, Oklahoma might be on to something. And if you're an LSU fan, feel some kind of way about it. Let me know in the comments. Y'all always do. Let's see what we got here. Doc Winston O'Boogie. Are opt-outs final, or can a player opt back in if he changes his mind at a later date? It's a good question. The answer is yes, they can opt back in. The likelihood of you being taken back in by your coaches and by your teammates is what you're dealing with. So if a Kennedy Brooks, for instance, right, team that we associate ourselves with, me and Doc Winston O'Boogie, decided to opt back in, I think Oklahoma would take him with open arms because he's that good. If he wasn't that good, might tell him to kick rocks, right? In February, Justin Fuente took it of his own volition to say anybody goes in the transfer portal ain't coming back out at Vatech. And I'm going, fool, why? Why would you say that? Why would you want to alienate people that might be able to help you win football games when your entire career is not judged by your players, but by how many wins and losses you have? If you have dudes that can help you win more games than you lose, you're going to be in a better position. So why would you want to close a door? To what? Prove a point? Because if you're ruling by fear, you're going to lose the room. Kids are smart. They talk to each other. They understand what's at stake here. But to answer Doc's question, yes, you can opt back in. We'll see if the coaches and the teammates want to let you opt back in.